The narrative begins by telling that the alien race Nonsuch attacked Earth, killing more than 90% of all humanity, and after 50 years, humans live underground on Earth, in places called exile, shelters built in various points around the planet by governments that united to fight the invasion. However, there are still people who refuse to seek underground shelter, living brief lives. The only way to go up to the surface safely is by becoming an elite soldier who, on missions, can spend up to 100 days surveying certain areas and fighting the race of creatures to reclaim what has always belonged to humans. The scene then shifts to an underground hangar, a compartment that leads to exile, a well-protected zone with high walls and soldiers guarding the place at all times. Inside the hangar, a group of new soldiers prepares to go up to the surface. They receive special weapons and a technological helmet that helps them observe what is around them and nearby. After receiving instructions from a robotic voice, they begin the new journey. The soldier known as SM-1 follows with the battalion to the war vehicles. Then they depart for advanced command posts scattered across the vast forest area. The soldier from our point of view will go to the tower known as Cerberus. On the way, they pass by a group of people who decided to go to the shelter, seek refuge and live their lives underground, until the elite forces restore security to Earth for all humanity. The people soon arrive at the entrance of one of the exiles, and the soldiers receive them well. A few minutes later, a soldier is assigned to occupy the first watchtower along the route, where he will remain and protect the marked area, only returning to exile after 100 days of mission. Each one will have their designated location, and finally, someone descends to his tower, which is 10 kilometers from the entrance to exile. Upon arrival, he checks the equipment and verifies the security of the nearby area. It is noticeable that this is his first contact with that environment, but trained for adverse situations, he enters Cerberus Tower. Upon entering the place, he finds human bones in a locked compartment that would lead to the underground bunker. Unable to open it, he goes up to the upper floors in search of someone. The building is completely empty. In the control cabin at the top, he removes his helmet, and we see his skin whitened due to the time spent underground without sunlight. He also has ocular lenses to assist his vision. We will call him Peter. He connects his DNA to the system and is authorized to access all data. The computer instructs him about the mission, in which he must protect the perimeter of the tower and preserve the defense area against the many non-such enemies that still remain alive. Upon encountering humans called Lost, Peter must take them to the entrance of exile. Peter checks the stability of the system and reports his arrival to Central Control, something he must do twice a day. He states that the soldier who should have handed over the post to him was not there, but he is instructed to proceed as he was told before arriving at the tower. The system asks him not to leave the Cerberus area, keeping his mission stable and faithful to its purpose. After the conversation, Peter receives the daily code from the tower system and then goes down to the mess hall compartment, a place that is turned upside down, as if it had been left in a hurry. He does not interpret this as a bad sign and proceeds to organize his food. Later, Peter reports to Control and speaks about the locked compartment. Soon he is instructed about the second entrance that will take him to the place. The soldier descends from the tower and goes to a nearby installation. He enters the compartment and checks if everything is in its proper place. At nightfall, Peter observes from the top of the tower, while the system echoes a request for the humans who are still lost not to confront the non-such enemies and to head to the towers or directly to the nearest exile. After a few minutes observing the surrounding forest, Peter soon hears a deep sound, like a growl, but cannot observe its source. The next morning, very early, he is awakened and instructed to continue the daily mission. The soldier's routine, before continuing his mission journey, begins with exercises to maintain his health and a physique ready for any eventuality. He is tasked with monitoring the various cameras spread across the designated perimeter. Using dark glasses to assist him, the soldier goes out and observes the surroundings, looking for any changes. Without exceeding the limits, he checks the perimeter, always attentive not to allow any unwanted invasion. Days pass and no unforeseen events, nor any worrying appearance has been reported to the system. Everything is in apparent tranquility. Peter continues with his routine activities without any problem. One night, with 90 days remaining until the end of the mission, the system notifies that the Nonsuch attacked some lost in a stretch near one of the control posts. Even with the repeated requests to seek shelter, people continued trying to live in unprotected places, which resulted in the death of everyone in the group. In the distance, Peter can see lights from explosions and hear whispers of screams and growls echoing through the vast forest. However, that is not his area to act in defense. Days go by, and Peter continues with his activities. One morning, he comes across a rat that approaches. Gently, he offers some of his food, but receives a small bite on his finger. In that relaxed moment, the system notifies him that one of the cameras at the edge of the defense circle is malfunctioning. As that is his function, Peter goes out to check the object outside the safe zone. He puts on his suit and enters the forest around the tower a little. Soon he fixes the camera and prepares to return. Suddenly, sounds of heavy footsteps echo nearby, and the system does not indicate any danger. Peter continues checking the surroundings and finds, embedded in a tree next to a dead crow, the identification tag of one of the elite soldiers. At a certain point, he removes his helmet, wishing to feel the nature around him. After that, he continues the patrol. Suddenly, the helmet system indicates the emission of toxic gas and instructs him to return to the tower. Minutes later, Peter reports the finding and the soldier's name. The commander speaking with Peter states that it is his predecessor. However, he is fine. Explanations arise to reassure the soldier, and the voice says that his companion had health complications and needed to be withdrawn. Without much conversation, the commander ends the communication, warning the soldier to focus on the mission and remain attentive to any sign of a Nonsuch. With 65 days left until the end of his stay at the tower, Peter continues with his duties. On another walk, he continues scans near the limit marked for him. Again, toxic gas emanates from the ground, forcing him to use auxiliary oxygen. Peter returns to the spot where he found the tag, and as soon as he passes the tree, he hears terrifying sounds. He immediately goes on alert and manages to observe a strange movement not far away. He cannot identify what it is, so he quickly orders that if it is a human, it should identify itself. Otherwise, he will shoot. Suddenly, the unknown disappears among the vegetation, and when Peter looks for it, he can no longer see it. Later, his superior reassures him, stating that it was probably just an animal. When Peter is at the top of the tower, he decides to check the locked compartment. Following the tunnel indicated by command, he goes to the place. Upon checking the environment, he comes across a mark on the wall similar to blood. Interpreting what may have happened, he believes in the final decision of his predecessor, but upon seeing a camera in the compartment, he returns to the control cabin to check the recordings. However, the system does not authorize Peter to see the footage. Wanting to know more about his predecessor, he goes to the soldier's locker and opens the section belonging to number 4. Inside, he finds an apparently defective radio, a diary, and drawn in it, there is a group of people, the crow still alive, and the rat that now keeps Peter company. However, something intrigues him. Drawing a natural perimeter, trees surround the entire area, and the Cerberus complex was also sketched, connected to the installation next door, Graham. After reflecting, Peter decides to venture to the limit of the territory. Hundreds of meters ahead, he reaches the border, but the discovery is painful. An implant in his leg exposes him. The moment he crosses a few centimeters of the area, an electric shock knocks him down, preventing any advance. After the discovery, he climbs a tall tree to observe a greater distance ahead, and by luck, manages to see the other tower in the distance. Peter tries to emit a light signal, but receives no response. Confused and intrigued by the environment he is in, Peter returns to Cerberus and rewinds the control cabin recording, but the file only shows until the moment of his arrival and then ends. Suddenly, a silhouette is seen behind him, which frightens him. Soon, the system crashes and shuts down, as do the installation lights. Fearing an invasion, Peter grabs his weapon ready, even though his fixed bracelet system does not indicate intrusions. A sound echoes as if something were leaving Cerberus. Quickly, Peter goes outside the tower and checks the surroundings. A few minutes after the crash, the soldier reports what happened to Command and fears that the place may have been invaded by one of the creatures. Command states that this cannot happen, since the installation has an independent system for any eventuality, also warning about the intrusion of any non-such. Peter is informed that a technician will be sent to the tower to check the electrical system, but until then, the soldier must remain attentive and responsible for perimeter security. After the conversation, Peter checks the moment of the unexpected appearance, but cannot identify what it was. Days pass, and no unforeseen events occur. However, the soldier's body begins to show health problems, but nothing that interferes with his performance on the mission. Inside his quarters, Peter receives a signal on the found radio. The man from the neighboring tower communicates, believing that it is Peter's predecessor and that he had sent a signal in Morse code. Soldier Peter speaks pretending to be the former soldier, but soon introduces himself as the successor at Cerberus. The soldier from Graham Tower introduces himself as Kara 4, but we will call him Victor, and when questioned about the communication he had with his predecessor, Victor says that conversation between soldiers was forbidden. He asks what happened to the neighbor, but Peter cannot say for sure, only claiming that Command spoke about health problems. As soon as he says that, the communication ends. A few days later, Peter, showing fragile health and a strong cough, questions Command about the technician who would come to check the installation's electricity, but so far no one has appeared. The voice in the system states that, due to the attacks that previously occurred along the route leading to the Cerberus installation, it became unfeasible for a technician to reach Peter. Command reassures the soldier, stating that only 35 days remain for him to return to exile. After the communication, Peter reflects and begins to suspect his superiors, who do not talk much about the mission, and questions the total isolation of the soldiers inside the towers. The next day, Peter, while inspecting the land near the limit of the marked area, approaches a destroyed building. There, he hears the sounds of a child and decides to enter the ruins to look for the owner of the voice. When he goes deeper inside, he comes across the child and a young woman, both frightened by his presence. Peter shows kindness and states that he will not harm them. He tells who he is and speaks about his mission to take them to the shelter to save them from the non-such creatures. However, afraid of the soldier, the young woman grabs the child and moves away. Peter tries to follow them, but his perimeter ends, and the shock prevents him from proceeding. Later, inside the tower, the system alerts about several appearances of lost humans wandering aimlessly, who need the support of the elite force to be rescued and sent to salvation in exile. Peter, frustrated with everything, confronts the system, claiming that the people do not wish to be taken. Later, at night, Peter tries to communicate with Victor, but no response is given. When he is at the top of the tower observing the area, he hears branches breaking and a loud sound. Having enhanced night vision, he goes out and searches for what is causing the noise. Upon finding a large deer, he shoots it with his special weapon and kills the animal to later consume it, since he only ate canned food. The next morning, Peter returns to the location near the tower and tries to communicate with Victor. Without receiving any response, he shouts angrily. When he is on the way back to the tower, he decides that he will cross the limits at any cost. Suddenly, toxic gas points begin to appear on the ground, making Peter hurry since he is without his protective helmet. Unfortunately, the soldier does not run very far and faints after inhaling too much gas. Before losing consciousness, he notices the creature from before very close, watching him. A few hours later, he awakens and contacts Victor, telling him about what he witnessed. Peter states that the non-such penetrated the shield and suspects that they were responsible for the disappearance of his predecessor. With that, he asks Victor to remain alert. After recovering from the fainting, he returns to the tower. Days pass, and with 2 weeks remaining before returning to exile, Peter draws in the diary. Suddenly, the system crashes and loses signal with command. At that moment, Peter discovers that the technician arrived safely at his location. He receives him and introduces himself. The man is called Q7, or rather, Leo. The technician shows that he has been there a few times and, when questioned about it, answers only that he met the soldier who had a troubled mind and talked to a rat. Peter asks about the man's delusions, but Leo knows nothing. Soldier Peter shows the visitor the recording of the day he witnessed something inside the tower and believes it may be a non-such, but it is revealed that the soldiers have never seen an enemy due to being underground and do not know the real appearance of the creatures. Leo mocks the soldiers' fear when he questions what they look like. Changing the subject, the technician soon proceeds to fix the system. While doing his work, Peter's rat companion approaches him and receives a slap that throws it against the wall. Quickly, Peter picks up the rodent and sees that it is still alive. Receiving insults from the technician, Peter threatens him with his weapon and demands explanations. Forcing him to shut down the central camera of the cabin, they become invisible to the system. Peter wants to see the internal recordings of when he is not in the installation. Leo confronts the soldier's request, but receives punches to the face. Fearing for his life, Leo agrees to bypass the computer and break the system's security. A few minutes later, Leo finally gains access to the recordings. However, they need 2 passwords, since each soldier kept possession of one. Seeing that the man tries to delay his progress, Peter asks the technician to stand up from the seat. However, Leo manages to grab a metal piece and stab the soldier, knocking the weapon from his hand. They end up fighting hand to hand, and Leo gains advantage by pressing Peter's wound. However, being more trained in combat, Peter gains the upper hand and soon leaves his opponent in terrible condition. Threatening him again with his weapon, the soldier forces the technician to say what he knows. Leo says that he was in the war when he was still young, and that due to bad luck, he was ambushed, and almost his entire team died in the aircraft crash. Leo states that only he and another companion survived. His friend's condition was critical, so he moved away to seek help, but, finding no one, returned hours later. Upon seeing his companion, he quickly realized that he had his ears cut off and, still alive, expressed only fear caused by the creatures. At another moment, Leo finally saw the feared non-such creatures, but not directly. He says that during a sandstorm in the area, he saw grotesque and fast silhouettes that were obscured by the dust. At that moment, he discovered something terrifying. His companion realized that the scream the creatures emitted caused the eardrums to explode before the sound even reached the ear, and then caused incomparable pain. That is why he himself tore off his own ears. After hearing what Leo knows about the appearance of the creatures, Peter takes him to the locked shelter underground and locks him inside. Then he goes to take care of his wounds, injecting healing serum and taking his pills. The time for communication with command arrives, and he needs to notify the situation at Cerberus. Peter tries to hide what happened and lies, claiming that his exercises to keep in shape are being rigorous. At dusk, and after days without communication, Victor contacts him. Luckily, Peter obtains a second access password and is granted permission to access past recordings. He then sees his predecessor, Vax-7, or the soldier called Gunter, tormented after spending days without answers, not understanding the real purpose of his stay there at the tower. After days questioning himself, Gunter no longer believed that everything was real. He told himself that everyone lied, and that command was nothing but a farce. The video is interrupted, and we see Peter telling Victor that Gunter had gone mad because of the system, which only relayed orders without answers or real proof of the creatures. Peter suggests that command itself is a farce, and that the attack from weeks ago was staged. He asks his neighbor if he has ever sighted any non-such enemy. Victor replies that if he had seen one, he would be dead. Peter confronts him, stating that those were the words they were told when they were young, to fear an enemy they had never faced, or perhaps that never existed. Reflecting on a global plan, Peter tells what he believes. With Earth's resources running out, the elite of the richest believed that resources for them could last forever, but something had to be done. Their narrative forced the creation of deadly creatures to push people into underground exile, where they would live hidden from something that did not exist, only to die there in a few years. The elite soldiers were created only to recruit humans from Earth and take them underground, leaving the world to those who hold power and wealth. Victor questions his companion's thoughts and states that he is already on his second mission. He faithfully believes in the creatures and that they need to continue the mission to save the lost who still walk amid imminent danger. Peter confronts the soldier's words by recounting the encounter he had with two lost. He says that the young people did not fear when he spoke about the non-such, but were frightened by his presence. Peter continues stating that there is a global plan to eliminate the poorest, discarding them like garbage underground. However, Victor maintains his determination with the mission. Upset with his companion's idea, Peter disconnects. Time passes, and only 1 week remains until the end of Peter's mission. The pet rat enters the food can, and not noticing this, Peter, irritated with the situation, grabs the container and throws it against the wall. Then he destroys the visor, not paying attention to the information that enemies are advancing to the north, the position where his tower is located. When he calms down, he looks for his rat friend and ends up finding it lifeless. This scene emotionally devastates him, and, moments later, we see him entering the forest without his soldier clothes. Seeking comfort, he lies among the fallen leaves on the ground, but does not have much time for peace. Suddenly, the strange creature, formed by what appear to be branches and fur used as camouflage, rises from the ground and, echoing a fierce growl, approaches the soldier. Fearing for his life, Peter runs. Upon seeing the antlers of the deer previously hunted, Peter runs to it. Before being attacked by the strange creature, the soldier grabs part of the animal and delivers several quick blows against the enemy. After killing what was pursuing him, he discovers that it was the soldier Gunter. The event torments Peter, but, wanting more explanations, he goes to Leo to confront him about his and the system's lies, revealing that he just encountered Gunter and killed him. Peter says that the elite's plan is to torment them until they go mad with lies and fears of something non-existent, imprisoning them there only to do what pleases them. Then he asks Leo to reveal how to shut down the defenses, and then he will end the entire elite farce. Later, he calls Victor and says that he knows how to prove the system's farce, stating that he will shut down all the barriers that prevent them from leaving the mental and social prison implanted over them. Then he asks him to meet at the limit on a certain day. The next day, Peter prepares for the new journey, leaving in the locker a photo of himself, in case another soldier is sent to the place. Then he frees Leo, who, seeing the chance, quickly leaves in his vehicle. After that, he leaves behind his weapon and his soldier identity, believing that the narrative of the non-such is a lie. He reaches the limit of his area, and, following Leo's instruction, finds the electrical cables and cuts the circuit, freeing his passage, but also shutting down his tower's defense. At that moment, the system alerts about danger and instructs him to go to the bunker, the same one at the beginning that he saw locked. The sound echoes through the region and can be heard at the Graham installation. Upon arriving at the place, Peter finds the tower open. Quickly, he goes up to the cabin and sees chaos and destruction, with no sign of Victor. However, the window was broken by something that burst violently, and there are what appear to be fragments of a body. Suddenly, he begins to bleed from the ear, and then a shrill sound echoes, making his hearing painful. At that moment, he begins to hear the sounds of drones firing at something and the screams of beasts echoing in the forest of the region. Looking through the window, he sees with his own eyes what he has just done. He has unleashed chaos and destruction upon that zone that was once safe. He immediately leaves with his companion's weapon, who was probably killed, and, after a few minutes running through the forest, comes across Leo, who offers help. Here the reality is revealed. A large creature, resembling a scorpion beast with parts of a colossal tarantula, grabs and kills the technician Leo. Frightened, Peter can only run, trying to reach a safe place. Air attacks help him distance himself from the abomination until he returns to the bunker near the tower. After entering, he waits for the chaos to pass and hears the system confirm rescue soon. The creature, outside, continues attempts to enter, but Peter remains firm, even with the terrifying sounds. It does not take long, and the monstrosity bursts through the bunker door and tries to destroy the walls to enter the compartment. Peter hides, but the creature enters the bunker. The monstrosity positions itself before Peter. The abomination shows its teeth and ferocity, but, before the worst happens, Peter slowly raises his weapon. Suddenly, the creature attacks him, and a shot echoes in the place. The outcome of that moment is not revealed, but it is believed that Soldier Peter brought an end not only to himself, but also to all the soldiers who were sent to that region.